Welcome to Built from Love, the podcast for moms birthing businesses and babies. I'm Erin Pratt, and thank you so much for being here.
Hello, welcome back to the Built from Love podcast. I am talking today about something I did 10 years ago, 10 years as of December of this year, so not quite 10 years yet, with my cousin. And we hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu for 4 days, 3 nights. And it was one of the most adventurous things I've ever done. That is until I became a mother. So, today I want to talk about the parallel experience of hiking the Inca Trail and the lessons I learned from that experience back when I was 26 years old to now fast forwarding 10 years later and how I bring those lessons with me into motherhood. So, in December 2016, my cousin and I embarked on a grand adventure to Peru. I'm actually wearing, if you're watching this podcast, I'm wearing a sweater from that trip. I bought this in one of the markets there in Cusco, and it was the most exciting experience of my life. And it was also very nerve-wracking. We prepared and discussed for this trip in the year leading up to it. So, pretty much that whole year of 2016. That same year, I got a surgery, a sinus surgery, not like a normal one, though. It was like in the back of my head. It was a very complex surgery. I was really sensitive to pressures and altitudes and weather. So, I was really nervous going into the trip. My cousin had also like just recently sprained her ankle. And if you know anything about the Inca Trail, it is a really tough trail. Like, it's just very rocky, very steep. So you're going really steep up and really steep downhill. So it's not for the faint of heart, although I still believe almost anyone can do this trail with the right preparation and mindset. So, hey, does that sound like motherhood? I think so. So basically, the overarching lesson I learned from this is that I can do hard things without ever doing them before. I had never done a hike like that. I wasn't really from like a hiking family. We never went camping. The closest thing to camping was we set up a tent in our basement. So it wasn't this like thing I had a lot of experience with, right? So it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but I was very excited for the adventure. So what I learned is you could do hard things and preparation is often required, but the mindset is the most powerful thing. And you gain confidence by the doing. Okay? So you have to go through it. Soon after I became a mom, my cousin once asked me, she was like, "How do you know how to do all this stuff?" She was a couple weeks old and changing diapers and feeding schedules and this and that. And I was like, I don't know. You just do it. When it happens to you, you just do it. And every stage of motherhood, I keep thinking I've hit my limit. I've hit my limit with my energy expenditure. I've hit my limit with babies, like I've hit my limit when I was going through unmedicated birth experiences, like right before they come. If you've ever done an unmedicated birth, usually the point where you're like, I can't do this anymore is the point that the baby's coming. And so, yeah, you can do it. Like you actually have to do it at that point. So let's talk about these 7 lessons that I learned on the Inca Trail that I carry with me all these years later into motherhood. The first one is to embrace the unknown. There is so much unknown when you are embarking on an adventure. I mean, that's like the essence of adventure. It's unknown. So when it was the Inca Trail, I was embracing this unknown journey of experiencing altitude, changes as you're hiking up this very steep 26-mile journey with nothing but what you're wearing on your back and with all these other people that you've never met in another country on this mountainside. I mean, some of the drops were so steep. People have died off of those drops. Don't tell my parents about that. Um, but we embraced it even the night before we went on the trek. My cousin looked at me. She was like, "Are we really doing this?" For a moment, we questioned, should we actually do this? And we did it. And I'm so grateful that we did. But you have to embrace the unknown and face the unknown. So when you're becoming a mother, when you're becoming pregnant for the first time, there's so much that's unknown. There's still years of unknowns ahead of me. I don't know what it's like to have a teenager, to launch an adult child into the world, to navigate heartbreak, all of this. But you have to face it and embrace it. Not knowing is normal, but there's courage in moving forward anyway. So those sleepless nights with your newborn, facing challenges with your toddlers, you just have to trust yourself, trust that uncertainty, and know that you're strong enough to push through it. For lesson number 2, Confidence is built through doing. I already kind of touched on this one. So confidence doesn't come before you do the thing. And this is applicable to so many things. I mean, it's applicable to everything. So many of us are like, oh, I'll start that project when I feel ready, or I'll launch that business when all these things are lined up. I'll get on that stage once I've practiced enough. No, confidence actually is built when you are doing the thing that is hard, when you're doing the thing that is new. And so that imposter syndrome, all of that stuff comes from just simply not having done something before. It doesn't mean you're not good at it. Doesn't mean that you're lying to anybody. It just means that it's new and you're doing it for the first time. Confidence comes after you do the thing. So I wasn't confident going into this trek. I actually didn't even really prepare that well. And so I got really nervous before we went on the trek. It is grueling. And the second day, it's a pass called Dead Woman's Pass. Oh, isn't that lovely? But it's like the highest ascent of that day. And I mean, my cousin and I were breathless, and you're starting to like get into oxygen levels that are a little bit less than what you're used to. And so breathing is hard. We had to take a lot of breaks. And at moments, you're like, am I going to make it? Am I going to actually finish this hike? And someone in our group actually had to be escorted down. They couldn't finish it. So you're not confident going into something you've never done. But man, getting on the other side is so rewarding. And I already can't wait to go on some other hike or adventure, at some point here in the future, maybe even with my girls one day. But I gained so much confidence after this hike. This core identity shifted in me that I was like, I can do really hard things. I could do like kind of scary things. Something shifted in me. And I think it's what prepared me so well launching into motherhood a few years later. Um, I did some solo traveling after that. I booked a yoga teacher training in Costa Rica. And when I became pregnant with my first baby, I was like, I'm going to do unmedicated. I'm strong. I had this faith in myself that I was strong, even without really preparing. So confidence in motherhood comes not before anything. It comes by doing the things that are hard. So you don't need to feel ready to start. You don't need to feel ready to face that next phase with your children. Confidence is going to come as you go. And that's why it's so wonderful to talk to moms with more experience who are further along the journey than you, because they're going to reassure you that you have it all inside you. You just might not feel confident yet because you haven't done it yet. Okay, so lesson number 3, mistakes are part of the process. So when we were on the hike, well, leading up to the hike, we thought we had prepared so well. Like looking up packing lists, reading on every phase of the hike from people who'd come before us. We were so prepared. We overpacked, which, yeah, there's another lesson in there. As a new mom and somebody who's pregnant, you think you need all this stuff. There is such a market in the baby world for like baby stuff. By the time I had my third baby, I'm like, I don't want any of this stuff, all this like baby specific stuff. Really, babies' needs are so simple. They just need to be on you, they need to eat. So, whether you are breastfeeding or bottle feeding or both, getting the pieces you need around that, a couple blankets, a couple onesies, diapers, you're good to go. But we have all these contraptions to put our baby in and shushers and this and that. And it's like, they really don't need all that stuff. And neither do you. You have so much of what you already need inside you. Same thing with prepping for the hike. We brought all these gadgets and gizmos that we thought would help our comfort on the hike. And then the unfortunate thing is you're carrying them on your back. It's actually better to travel light. So we did a lot of research and reading about what these other people have done from the hike and their experiences. And we did like kind of took all their advice. But I missed a piece. I forgot sunscreen is a big part of it because even though it was December and it was kind of cold, you're in the mountains, the weather's unpredictable, it's all over the place. I had sunscreen on everything except my ears, and I was wearing a baseball cap, so my ears were exposed and my hair was always in a ponytail because you don't take any baths or anything during the hike. And my ears got so burned over time that I didn't notice it was happening until like one of the last days. It was like peeling, like not just like little flakes of skin. A layer of my ear actually came off and it was this exposed cauliflower look. I looked like a boxer or something. Anyway, it's all part of it. Now I know if I ever go on a hike again, not to forget sunscreen on the ears. So you're going to mess up in parts of motherhood. There's going to be messy parts. There's going to be tantrums that are public and you're not going to know what to do. There's going to be experiences when your children are older that you don't really know how to navigate until you go through it. And so just being open-hearted, honest, and communicating with yourself and your children that you're doing the best you can and you're learning along with them, all part of the process. Lesson 4 is trusting your own internal guidance, your own internal compass. The cool thing with the hike is that you're hiking with a group, but they allow you to space yourself out accordingly. So you don't have to stay with the group. Everybody hiked at their own pace, and they accounted for this in the scheduling of the days. So some people hiked longer because they had to go slower, and others sped ahead and they got to rest for a little while at the stops that we made, the base camps. So you had to trust yourself. And when you were trying to compare with other people, when you're not going at your own pace and you're trying to match someone else's pace, it doesn't work out so well. And you feel it. You feel it that day, you feel it the next day, you feel it in your body. And so just trusting your inner compass, your inner guidance, knowing when I was supposed to push forward, when I needed to rest, when I needed to take a second to sit down, when I needed to have a drink of water, not rushing through it, not trying to keep up with someone else. That was so critical on this hike. It was a hike of endurance. It wasn't this competition to see who gets there first. So, trusting yourself in motherhood. There is going to be so much that gets thrown at you when you are a mom. And also like no matter what phase of motherhood you're in, there's always going to be someone else there to compare notes with. And that's a very important thing, but it is also extremely important to trust yourself. So, every phase that you go through as a mom, starting from pregnancy forward, take in what everyone else is saying, seek out the advice and wisdom from those who have come before you, and then always check in with yourself. Trust yourself because you know deep down what it is you're meant to do. And you have what you need inside you already. I'll also say a lot of these lessons because this is a podcast for creative moms. So much of this is applicable to business. If you take back what I'm saying, in all of these lessons, right? So the whole idea of I can do hard things, without having done them before, embracing the unknown. As an entrepreneur, we embrace the unknown every day. Confidence built through doing, same thing. You're not going to be confident as a business owner until you're actually doing it for a while. Mistakes are part of the process. You're going to fail as a business owner. You're going to try campaigns, you're going to try products and offers and ways to reach your audience that are not going to work. Trusting your inner guidance, 100%. You always have to trust your inner gut. And as I said in my last episode, we're moving into this new age, this new paradigm of self-reliance. We cannot trust place all of our trust, I should say. We can still trust systems. We cannot place all of our trust on those external to us. You have to have such a strong inner constitution to be successful in this new age. So trust your inner gut, your guidance, and leadership for yourself. Okay. Lesson 5, incremental wins matter. Oh my gosh, they matter so much. We cannot just focus on the end goal. We cannot focus on the destination. We have to celebrate along the way. I mean, this is a parallel for all of life, right? If you're only celebrating the destination, what was the whole point for? So, motherhood, Inca Trail, business, life, it's applicable to all of it. So, for the Inca Trail, day by day, mile by mile, every little checkpoint felt small, but it compounded into actually completing the hike. And sometimes it was literally in the worst parts of this hike. There were some parts of the hike where you feel like you just can't go on any longer. My knees were getting into such bad shape. And in fact, I ended up having knee problems for the following year after this hike. But sometimes there was one part of the hike I remember distinctly looking down at my feet and just saying, one more step, one more step, one more step. And eventually I finished the hike, right? So the incremental wins, which could be as simple as one more step, one moment, one breath. There are parts of motherhood, especially in the early years, especially in the early days, where you feel like you can't go on any longer. In fact, I had one of those weeks just this week myself. There was one day where I was like, I kept looking at the clock and I was like, I cannot believe it is only like 10 o'clock in the morning. I had such a rough night the night before. I had two busy girls. One of them had an ear infection. It was a crazy day. So I just kept thinking like, okay, I can get through this next minute. I can get through this next feeding. When you're at night, sleepless nights, you're rocking the baby and you're just shh, shh, shh over and over again. You go into this place in your head. Unmedicated birth. I mean, sometimes it's just the next breath that you have to try to get through as you're feeling those contractions. So celebrate the incremental wins. They're going to add up. They are going to add up. They're going to compound into completing the hike. They're going to compound into experiencing this beautiful journey of motherhood, watching your kids grow up. It matters. And in business, celebrate those micro wins. The first person to follow you on Instagram, the first one to sign up to your email list, the first one to buy an offer from you. It's so important to celebrate those wins because they matter so much in the beginning and they matter so much as you grow. So the next lesson is reframing hard things as growth. I wrote a blog long ago. I used to have a travel blog. It's not up anymore, but gosh, I should probably figure out a way to get those blog posts back up. I kind of let the domain expire, so I lost the public facing version of that. Anyway, I read this little excerpt that I'd written about Dead Woman's Pass, and it reminded me so much of going through unmedicated birth and what I was experiencing as I was having contractions. So here's what I wrote about Dead Woman's Pass. A few important things to remember about hiking Dead Woman's Pass. Take breaks as often as you need to catch your breath. Hike at your own pace, drink lots of water, and don't look up to see how much you have left to hike. You'll get there eventually, and it will feel like you are on top of the world. Okay, so take breaks as often as you need to catch your breath. So as you're going through contractions leading up to birth, you need to go through each one at your own pace and breathe so deeply through them. So as a contraction is building, it's so important to match your breath. Deep breaths, slow and steady. Hike at your own pace. This one reminded me so much of if you do an unmedicated birth, there's this thing called doctor-led pushing and then your own, I forgot the name of it, but basically following your body's instincts on when to push and when to stop pushing. I remember very distinctly with my last birth, just as my third baby was crowning, she was crowned. I asked the doctor, I was like, is it okay if I just pause right here? And she said, yes. I had to skip a contraction because I could feel that my body wasn't ready to push yet, even though she was right there. And she totally respected my wishes. So hike at your own pace. It was like kind of pushing at my own pace, listening to myself. Drink lots of water. I mean, that's a good advice for every day, right? But you got to keep yourself hydrated as you're going through something hard. And don't look up to see how much you have left to hike. It's so about being in the present moment. Okay, so when you're going through unmedicated birth, you cannot think about how much you have left to go because it's overwhelming. If you think about, oh, I've only dilated 4 centimeters, I have to go all the way to 10. It's better to stay in the present moment and just tackle each breath as it comes. Same thing with hiking. Like when we looked up and we saw how much of this hike we had left to climb up Dead Woman's Pass, it was really overwhelming. Look down at the ground and put one step in front of the other, and then you get there, and it will feel like you're on top of the world. And that's how you feel when you meet your baby for the first time. So even if you don't do unmedicated, any kind of birth experience, you get to the end of it and it's the most ecstatic feeling. Like you have this baby now, you did it. Okay, so hard things like sleepless nights, dealing with a toddler, the unmedicated birth, any kind of birth, honestly, any C-section, any birth, it's going to strengthen you. It's going to fortify you. It's going to make you more patient, more confident. So hard things, they're not obstacles, they're opportunities for growth. And then finally, this is my favorite lesson. I have another excerpt that I wrote. Okay. Here's my final lesson. Don't forget to stop and look around. This was such a thing I had to keep doing on the Inca Trail. Okay. So I wrote, don't forget to stop and look around. Trekking almost 10 hours a day is hard. You keep your head down for most of it to watch where you're going. But the scenery is breathtaking. So make sure to stop and look around. Take pictures and let it soak in that you are hiking the Inca Trail to one of the wonders of the world, which is Machu Picchu. I had to keep my head down for so much of this trek. And it's funny because I think back now and I'm like, gosh, anytime I see like a rocky path or rocky stones, like old stones, the Inca Trail was built centuries ago. Okay. It's so old. They built these stairs into the mountain made of stone. You had to keep looking down because you could easily trip. I mean, this was not a paved path. You're climbing, sometimes with your hands climbing up things. You have to look down. So, on the flip side of like being in the present moment, right? Like when you're getting through each breath and looking down, it is so important in the day to day experience of being a mom, being a business owner, right? To stop and look around. Stop and look at what you've done. Stop and look how far you've come. Stop and take in the scenery of that moment. Just like look at your kids and don't do anything but just smile at them. Just like see who they are today and what you've helped build around you. Same thing with your business. It's so important to just stop and take a breather and look at what you've built. Look at the lessons you've learned. Look at the people's lives you've touched. So stop and look around. So these are my 7 lessons that I reflected back on when I was reading through my old blog posts. Actually, it was prompted by my girls got into a box of all my old stuff and they pulled out an old passport of mine and I was looking through all the stamps. Back in my travel blogging days, travel days, I had traveled to 18 countries. I lived abroad for a period of time. Um, and it reminded me of like all these experiences I've had. It just brought this flood of memories back from my past identity, my past life experience of traveling the world in my 20s and experiencing all these beautiful new things. And I'm so glad because it shaped who I am today and it helps expand my world as a mom. I can't be doing these things today. Well, I could if I wanted to, right? You can do anything you want. But I've chosen to be home with my girls and it's just not feasible for all of us to travel the world right now, but one day will be. And so it prompted me to think back, and I was like, gosh, there's a lot of lessons I learned in my past that are applicable to motherhood, and I'm not even consciously aware of it until I sit down and really reflect. So, another episode, I'm going to talk about all the lessons I learned from my yoga teacher training who have made me a better mom, and what I've brought into parenting my little girls. So, that'll be another episode soon. But I hope this inspires you to think back on your own experiences. If you're a mom right now, think back on that past self that we grieve so often, the one that had fun and was carefree and did crazy, exciting things, right? There's so many lessons from our past that we probably don't even realize we're bringing into our motherhood journey and our business journey and how it shapes us today. So I'd love to hear about it. If you can think of anything, please share. And I would so appreciate if you send this episode to someone who you think might enjoy it. Please don't forget to give me a review if you've enjoyed this. It would mean the world to me to help me spread my message of motherhood, entrepreneurship, creativity with more women. Thank you so much for listening and keep building everything you're building from a place of love.